Part 42. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 413. Recite the URL silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. What? You want to go to Suzhou with me? Exactly. Pei Shi nodded and looked at Su Qingyu. After so many years of governance in the Yu region, the people's will is what they want, and the people live and work in peace and contentment. I believe that the king of Yu has many capable people. On the contrary, the commanders and horses are surrounded by some martial men. The commanders and horses are highly skilled in martial arts and treat their subordinates with loyalty, which is very popular. But seizing the territory is only the first step. If we lose everything like before, we might as well not fight for it and go back to the mountains with the princess to reunite with our family. Su Qingyu looked at him blankly. Conquering the country is only the first step. If you don't know how to manage it, you will really lose everything. I feel that what he said makes sense. Lu Bachan really needs capable people and officials who can help manage the city. Apart from people who can fight, he is probably short of all talents. There is a shortage of civil servants to manage the city, and there is a shortage of people who understand the general economics to develop the economy. Now he has hundreds of thousands of troops in his hands. If the city is not managed well and the economy cannot develop, many of his subordinates may not even be able to eat. Looking at Pei Shi, think carefully. The conditions in Suzhou are not as good as those in Yu. If you want to go to Reizhou, I will recommend you to your godfather. I believe that with your talents, you will have a place in Yu. Your grandson, there's no need to follow you around. It's not peaceful in Suzhou now. Pei Shi nodded. I have thought about it. If the princess does not give up, I am willing to follow him to Suzhou. Su Qingyu thought about it for a while and then agreed. Such a talented person, since he was going to bump into him, how could he be willing to let him go? After the two of them agreed, Su Qingyu turned around and ordered a car to be vacated for his grandparents, and then threw his broken car on the side of the road. If anyone came to check, they would just assume he was dead. The team restarts. In the carriage, the old servant Pei Yi tucked the young master into a quilt and asked Pei Shi quietly, "Master, why are we going to Suzhou?" Pei Shi looked at his grandson who had bandaged his injury and was lying on the thick quilt, and asked softly, "Ji, why do you think my grandfather changed his mind?" Pei Ji thought for a moment and said, "Is it because there is no one behind the king of Yu?" Pei Shi did not nod, but only smiled at his grandson and said, "This is very fatal. No one knows what will happen to the Yu kingdom 100 years after the king of Yu. If it is only passed down to one life, the Yu kingdom will inevitably be torn apart in the future. People eat it?" My grandfather asked about the county horse Lu Bachan. He previously followed Kui Sheng and performed well in the Fengxiang army. After Kui Sheng left, he never left the remaining Fengxiang army. He also devoted himself to avenging Kui Sheng and the Fengxiang army. He was a very good person. And in these years, no matter how many people have given him women, he has not accepted them. A man who is willing to cherish his wife will be a kind and generous officer. Pei Ji and Pei Yi looked at each other and understood. In this case, they will go to Suzhou. And Su Qingyu, who got back on the carriage, was also closing her eyes and thinking. If she could meet the descendants of the Pei family today and save them, the Pei family would naturally owe her a favor, so she didn't have to worry about them repeating themselves in the future. Pei wanted to follow him to Suzhou, of course he had his own purpose. But he just wanted to restore the glory of the family. He wanted to choose a good master. Su Qingyu understood and gave him this opportunity. Pei Shi naturally had his own considerations when choosing Lu Bachan. In the nearly 300 years of the previous dynasty, the Pei family produced a total of 34 prime ministers, 38 ministers, and not only civil servants, but also 31 generals. In addition, There are countless children in the clan who are active in the court. There are many in-laws and old friends, and there are also many disciples of the Pei family. Best of all, the relationship with the royal family is also strong. In the previous dynasty, the Pei family produced 18 attached horses. A truly big family should not be underestimated. But after the Liang dynasty was established, the Pei family was severely suppressed, and the family's glory was long gone. Firstly, the Pei family will not work hard for Wu Yang, and secondly, Wu Yang will not use them. Even if they are constantly suppressed by Wu Yang and exterminated, the family that has lasted for hundreds of years will never lose even some in-laws and old friends. And it's not just Hedong, the Pei family's branches are scattered everywhere. This Pei Shi, if used well, will be a great help to Lu Bachan. If used poorly, Su Qingyu is also worried that the subordinate is too strong and the boss is too weak, and there will be backlash. But now it is an environment where warriors govern the country. Su Qingnao is not too worried about whoever has a strong fist and listens to others. After thinking about things all the way, he soon entered the territory of Jinhai town. Looking all the way, it forms a strong contrast with the excitement and prosperity in the south. I don't know whether it's because the weather gets cooler as we go further north, or because it's something else. It's dusty all the way, and no one is around for a long time. The greenness of the trees has lost 2 points. But fortunately, I didn't encounter Xiao Xiao blocking the road and robbing me, so it seemed to be quite peaceful. Not only Su Qingnao opened the curtain to peek out, but the Pei family's ancestors and grandchildren also opened the curtain and looked out. They saw that the people's customs and sentiments were better than they expected, and they breathed a sigh of relief. The group finally arrived in Suzhou at the end of October. At this time, the first snow had already fallen in Suzhou. Suzhou has been regarded as a military fortress since ancient times. Lu Bachan took over Suzhou, so he naturally did not dare to neglect it. Not only did he send heavy troops to guard Suzhou, he also led his own troops to garrison Suzhou. As soon as Su Qingyu and his party arrived at the Suzhou city gate, they were stopped by the soldiers guarding the city gate. This group of people, not only the guards, but also the carriage drivers, looked like they were armed, and all of them were equipped with weapons. And although there are few horses, they are not weaker than their military horses at all. The soldiers guarding the city gate immediately became concerned and blocked the road with their halberds raised to the left and right. "Who is he? Where are you from? Who are you looking for in Suzhou? What's the reason?" a soldier shouted. Si Yuan stepped forward and spoke to the soldiers. "Ah! Jadushi's wife? Real or fake? Isn't Mrs. Jadushi in the south? Are you coming to the north? I haven't heard of it. Do not believe. Soldiers guarding the city gate, you look at me and I look at you, doubtful." But he did not dare to neglect at all, and immediately ran to report to the city gate official. The city gate officer was stunned for a long time, and then ran over while straightening his clothes. Arriving at the back of Su Qingyu's carriage, she clasped her fists and said, "But madam." He was also dubious in his heart. He hadn't heard of it, and there was no order from above. If madam was coming, why shouldn't the government send someone to greet her early? Mrs. Guo lifted the car curtain and Su Qingyu's face was revealed. She smiled at the city gate official and nodded, "That's right. I didn't send a letter to Lu Bachan and planned to give him a surprise. Is he in the city? Dare you call Jadushi by his first name? It seems she is the real lady." Not daring to look up any more, he clasped his fists again, with his head almost touching his fists. "Young man has met madam. Your Majesty is in the city, and young madam will lead the way. Okay, please. No trouble, it's a small honor." After saying that, he quickly ran to the front of the team and made a gesture to his subordinates. The soldiers guarding the city gate immediately put away their halberds and stood upright respectfully to welcome the lady into the city. Jidushi's official residence is in the very center of the main city, and it takes nearly half an hour to walk past the city gate. When they arrived at the door, the soldiers guarding the door blocked the door again with halberds. "Hurry and report to your lord, Madam is here." "Madam? Whose wife is here? You idiot. Of course she is your lord's wife, or whose wife?" The city gate officer only thought that the soldiers guarding the gate were blowing wind at the door and their heads were numb. After saying this through gritted teeth, I wanted to kick them hard for the adults. "Ah! Your lord's wife? Real or fake? Isn't Madam in the south? You didn't lie to me? Why don't you report it quickly?" "Oh," a guard reacted, jumped over the high threshold, and ran inside. My lord, my lord. That's incredible. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 414. Recite the URL 3 times silently. Did you remember it? If not, I will ask again in the next chapter. It would be best if you could share it on Facebook for me. Lu Bachan thought he had heard it wrong and dug his ears. What did you say? Sir, there are several carriages and a dozen horses, led by the city gate officer. Lu Bachan stepped forward and kicked him. Speak to the point. Oh, it's the madam is coming, the madam is coming from the south. But he didn't know if it was the madam. He didn't see it, it was the city gate officer who said it. Just as he was about to speak, he saw that his master had disappeared. Running so fast? As Lu Bachan ran towards the door, his mind was buzzing. Is the madam here? Is it true or not? Could it be that his men saw that he missed the madam too much on weekdays, so they thought of some tricks to tease him? During this period of truce, are you all bored? If it's false, drag them out to run dozens of laps with weights tomorrow. At the gate, Suqing'an had already gotten off the carriage with the help of Guo. So many carriages could not go through the main gate, and all carriages and horses had to go through the back door. Suqing'an looked up at the black and shiny plaque above the gate. The 3 big characters Zhenhai Mansion were vigorous and powerful. I don't know who wrote them, but they made people respect them. The characters are written very well, iron strokes and silver hooks, 3 points into the wood. Pei 11 nodded while watching from the side. Suqing'an nodded. This gate is also built majestically. The main gate is in the middle, and the left and right side doors are on both sides. It is also built on a high platform, and there are several steps in front of the door. This mansion should be the former Suzhou governor's mansion. You can see it. It's not new. Besides, if Lu Bachan spends money to build a mansion again, he probably won't be willing to do it. Sir Pei, is there anything special about the steps in front of the door? Suqing'an has seen some ancient buildings, some of which have steps in front of the door, and some do not. These steps are called steps, also called steps, built with bricks or stone strips, with odd numbers as yang, usually 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. The higher the number, the more noble the status. Oh, Suqing'an nodded in understanding. It really feels good to have a know-it-all around. Pei 11 looked at Suqing'an and smiled. This lady is really a wonderful person. As a princess of a country, she never talks about her status and doesn't let him call her princess. All the way outside, eating and living with everyone, not the slightest bit of pampering. She doesn't pretend to understand when she doesn't understand, and often asks him for advice. She borrowed Confucius from him to read, and not only did she understand it, but she also often discussed it with him. And the views she expressed were extremely novel, which made him feel refreshed and benefited a lot. Just when the two were about to discuss the steps. My wife. Lu Bachan roared very loudly, which scared Suqing'an and successfully attracted everyone's attention. It's really my wife? He was not mistaken. Lu Bachan jumped over the threshold, ran down the steps, rushed towards her, hugged her tightly. My wife, it's really my wife. Lu Bachan's eyes were filled with tears and his throat was choked. It's not a dream, it's not a dream, it's really my wife is here, my wife is here with him. It must be that God saw that he missed my wife too much, so he sent my wife to him. Lu Bachan buried his head in Suqing'an's shoulder, breathing in the fragrance of her hair, her smell, and felt that the restless heart full of longing for so many days finally settled down. Behind him, the soldiers guarding the gate had already led everyone into the mansion, and the carriages and horses led them to the back door. Only the couple were left at the door, and even the soldiers guarding the gate hid behind the gate. You hurt me. Lu Bachan loosened his hands slightly and sniffed, I miss you so much. Wife, do you miss me? Nonsense, I miss you. I was stupid to leave for more than 2 months to see you. Why didn't you tell me so that I could send someone to pick you up? If something happened on the way, how could I live? Of course I made all the preparations before I came, Suqing'an said and pushed him. Lu Bachan didn't let him go. The two hugged for a while until Suqing'an stepped on him hard, and he let go. Holding his wife's face, he couldn't help but look at her. The wife was getting more and more beautiful. He couldn't help but bite her lips. This guy. So strong. Suqing'an pushed him and patted him, but he couldn't move him at all. Until he took a breath, he jumped away from him, covered his mouth and glared at him. How can you see people with a broken lip? Who else can you see? Seeing me is enough. Tisk. I don't want to pay attention to him. Lu Bachan was afraid of making her angry, so he had to forget it. Anyway, my wife has come, why should I care about this moment? Hey, where is he? You come to ask now, he has already entered the house. Suqing'an glared at him. Xiaobao, Dabao, come here and let daddy hug you, Lu Bachan shouted to the door. He missed his son. My son didn't come. Ah, why didn't he come? My wife came, but she didn't bring his son? How old is my son? Xiaobao is not even 8 years old. Is everything peaceful here? Just let your son come. If something happens, you won't feel bad, Suqing'an glared at him. I feel bad. But I miss my son. Lu Bachan was a little disappointed. His son grew up so big, but he only met him once. His flesh and blood. I miss him so much that my heart aches. Suqing'an sighed, don't make me miss my son, otherwise I will go back to hug my son in a few days. Ah, that won't do. Come on, my lady, I'll take you into the mansion. Fearing that his lady really missed her son too much and would abandon him and run away, he hurriedly pulled Suqing'an into the mansion. The two soldiers guarding the door were hiding inside the door. When they saw Suqing'an coming in, they smiled and said hello, hello, madam. I've met madam. Hello everyone. Thank you for your hard work. It's not hard, I was flattered. It will get cold if you stand at the door for a long time, so wear more clothes. The two soldiers guarding the door looked to be about 16 or 17 years old, and they were still only half grown. Thank you, madam. We should dress appropriately. It's not too cold. If it's cold, you can go to the concierge to warm yourself by the fire. That's good. After saying this, Suqing'an looked at her waist, casually took off her purse and threw it to the two of them. I'll give you the candy in it. I made it myself at home. Thank you madam, thank you madam. Lu Bachan wanted to snatch it back, but he hadn't even eaten it yet. The two men dodged and jumped out from the threshold, leaving Lu Bachan with an empty space. Of course, he didn't really want to steal it. Madam, I don't have any, he said with an accusing look on his face. Why are you like Xiaobao, disgusted? I brought more, and there are more. That's good. Come on, I'll show you around. Lu Bachan took him around the house. He found that the big house was empty, with few flowers and plants. However, there were small and large schools everywhere. There were 2 rows of various weapons next to the school. It was obvious that he often trained regularly. Are there many people living in the house? That's quite a lot, but this time they're all going to the military camp. Who lives in the mansion? My personal soldiers, a few masters, and a few unmarried generals. What about Gu Changqing and Lu Zhong? They live here, too. Then you send someone to call Gu Changqing back. His wife is here too. Really? Then he must be very happy. Then Lu Zhong and his family are here too. No, it's just me and Gu Changqing's wife. Lu Zhong's wife will help her daughter raise her grandson. His daughter is Pei Yan's wife. I know. After saying that, he recruited a soldier and asked him to call Gu Changqing. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 415. Recite the URL silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter 6. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Su Qingyu followed Lu Baqin around the mansion and spent a lot of time entering the courtyard. Her legs were numb and she was hungry before she stopped. When they were having lunch in the flower hall, Su Qingyu looked at the food on the table and was dumbfounded. Madam, eat quickly. Are you hungry? Lu Baqin said as he put vegetables into her bowl. The food is not that great, but maybe it tastes good. Su Qingyu took a big piece of meat and put it into her mouth. Ba ba ba. Salt doesn't cost money, or have you robbed the salt nest? Yan xian yan xian. Look at Lu Baqin still eating well. She even suspected that there was something wrong with her taste buds. You don't find it salty? Ah, is it salty? It's okay. Madam, do you think it's salty? Then I'll ask the kitchen to make it lighter in the future. Do you all eat so salty? Everyone usually trains and sweats all over. The military advisors said that they should add some salt to everyone, so they made it a little saltier. After eating it, they got used to it. This is saltier, it's no different from salt-baked ones. Where did you hire this chef? Not only the taste, but also the color, aroma, and shape of the dishes. It doesn't matter what you want. Su Qingyu didn't want to complain, but she felt bad that Lu Baqin didn't eat well. It would be unbearable if the chef he hired just took the monthly payment and did nothing. I didn't hire a cook, so I called a few cooks from the army. Anyway, I usually don't eat much at home, so I eat with everyone in the barracks. I usually stay in the barracks, and I only come back to sleep at night. Yes. When I was away fighting, I didn't come back for several months. Seeing Lu Baqin eating well, Su Qingyu couldn't help but feel sorry for him. Then I'll take some reward money and ask people to bring it to the kitchen later. Thanks to them for cooking for you. Then they must be extremely happy. Madam, look at today's dishes. They are much better than usual. They must have come to please you. Does this dish please her? That is to say, the degree to which the ingredients are cooked. But for a bunch of rough guys, this is already the highest standard in the kitchen. Su Qingyu wrapped the vegetables and meat in rice and ate them together, which made it easier to eat. After dinner, Su Qingyu and Lu Baqin were sitting in the flower hall drinking tea. Before they had finished drinking tea, several cooks from the kitchen ran over. A fat middle-aged chef led several young cooks to thank her. Thank you, madam, for the reward. Thank you, ma'am. You're welcome. And thank you for taking care of me, sir. Thank you for your hard work. Several cooks were so flattered that they waved their hands in panic. It's not hard, it's not hard. The adults rarely come to the house. We have a lot of leisure, we have food, drink, and money. The adults are not kind to us. Sukingyu chatted with them for a few words and then asked the cooks to go down. Looking at their backs, I felt a little sad. Are these all retired from the army? Sukingyu asked. The leading chef is lame in one foot, and the other chefs are either blind in one eye or missing an arm. Everyone has some shortcomings. Well, they are all homeless, so I will take them in and work in the house. What about the other people who have retired from the military? Some people took pension money and returned to their hometowns, and some were homeless. Later, I got a city and found a place to resettle them. Sukingyu knew why his mansion was still in such a dilapidated state even though he had 5 states in his hands. She walked around and almost every courtyard she entered looked dilapidated. In some yards, the walls are broken and the tiles are missing. They are as mottled as an abandoned house and overgrown with weeds. It's not repaired or taken care of, and it seems like there's no money to spare. I don't see any maids in this house. All the cooking is done by men, but what about the laundry and cleaning? What do you want from a bunch of rough guys? Do you need someone else to do the laundry? Don't you have any hands? Cleaning is done by a few cooks and guards. Anyone who has time will do a few sweeps, Lu Bachan said nonchalantly. Sukingyu clicked her tongue twice. This is no way to live a good life. This is really unscrupulous. However, it is difficult for them to expect a group of gangsters fighting on the battlefield to pay attention to these internal affairs. After Lu Bachan finished speaking, he paused. It could be like this before, but now that the wife is here, it can't be like this, right? Let a group of big soldiers serve the lady? Lu Bachan shivered a few times. They were not eunuchs. Madam, after you have rested, I will have someone take you for a walk in the city, and you can buy some girls. From now on, I will leave everything in the backyard to you. I won't care about it. Okay, I can't count on him. After lunch and a short rest, Sukingyu called over Guo, Xiangshang, and others. Have Mr. Pei's grandparents and his family been settled? It will be placed in the first courtyard. The courtyard is quite large. It is enough for them and their group to live in, Xiangshang replied. Where's Xian Niang? Master Gu came back and asked me to report to Madam that they wanted to continue living in the mansion. They said that Mrs. Xian also has a wife to take care of her when Master Gu is not around, Mrs. Guo replied. Sukingyu nodded. Then you can find a quieter courtyard in the mansion for the couple. Yes, Mrs. Guo responded, and then said, Madam, there are many generals living in the 7th courtyard now. I'm afraid it's not good to live here like this. Sukingyu thought for a while and said, place the original people in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th entrances. We will live in the 5th and 6th entrances. The 7th entrance is the school grounds and will be assigned to the gatekeepers and guards at the back door. Yes. Does that mean we need to hire or purchase some women and girls? Now that the wife has moved in, it will be inconvenient for the girls to be without a mother-in-law, Xiangshang said. Sukingyu nodded and said to Mrs. Guo, you will take your guards to the city's Yaya area later and buy some people back. By the way, see if there are any cooks and invite a few back. When several people heard this, they laughed. It seems that not only them, but also the wife can't eat the food cooked by the chefs in the house. Then Sukingyu ordered Xiangshang to go shopping and invite people to repair the house. As soon as things were arranged with Guo and others, the quartermaster Ying Cheng ran over with the account book in hand, said a few words, then piled up the account book and ran away. After running a few steps, he was greatly relieved to see that his wife didn't send anyone to catch him. He was a good quartermaster, but it was really hard for him to be taken into account by the adults. He was more comfortable in the barracks. Sukingyu saw him running so fast and couldn't laugh or cry. After taking the account book, he glanced at it a few times, then became confused and threw it to Xiangshang. Madam, Judging from this account, there is no money in the house. Well, you adults have said that every month a sum of money will be drawn from the army and brought to the mansion. The accounts of the mansion and the army are jointly maintained. There is no other income for the mansion. They are all drawn from the army. If there is no money, they will come over. Then after. From now on, the army will be the army, and the government will be the government. I will give you a sum of money, and you can open the accounting room in the government, and then go outside to see if there is any profitable business that can be done in the government. We can't mix with the military, we must have the financial resources to support this mansion. Yes. After arranging the internal affairs of the house, and seeing that Pei Shi had rested, he invited him to see Lu Bachan. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha Xiaoye 11U. Chapter 416. Recite the URL 3 times silently. Do you remember it? If not, I will ask again in the next chapter. It would be best if you can share it on Facebook for me. Lu Bachan had a sweet nap. Even his dreams were sweet. He rarely took a nap in the past, and he didn't sleep well at night. Today, he had a rare nap and felt refreshed. After getting up, he looked for his wife. He saw his wife ordering the servants to do things. Seeing his wife sitting at the top, planning and commanding, he felt very healthy. It was like a person who had been thirsty for a long time and encountered a clear spring. So, how could this family not have a woman in the backyard? After Guo and the others left, Su Qingmei turned her head and saw Lu Bachan supporting his chin with his hand, staring at her with a smile. It made her hair stand on end. Why are you looking at me like that? My wife is pretty. After saying that, he pulled Su Qing'an to sit on his lap, sniffing the feminine scent on her chest, and his heart was distracted. He just wanted to carry her back to the room. No matter whether it was day or night. Stop it, Su Qing'an jumped away from him. When he recovered, she glared at him fiercely and told him about Pei 11. I know the Pei family. I met Prime Minister Pei in Chang'an before. It's a pity that the Pei family has fallen to this point. It's all because of Wu Quanzhong, the ungrateful and shameless usurper. Now the Liang dynasty is in turmoil, and he will take his life while he is in turmoil. Although he is gone, his children are still there. He can't swallow this breath unless he overthrows the Liang dynasty. In a few days, I will lead troops to seize Haizhu. I haven't asked you yet. You exchanged Zhaozhou and Yizhu for 3 million taels. Did you also exchange Weizhu and Kozhu for silver? Lu Bachan shook his head. No, I exchanged Zhaozhou and Yizhu for silver because I didn't intend to manage the north. And those 2 states are close to Jin. Yan was swallowed by Jin, and the remaining 2 states were taken by me. For Jin, it was like a thorn in the throat. It happened that I was short of silver, so I exchanged them to Muyuxian. What about the other 2 states? Who did you exchange them to, and how much silver did you get? Lu Bachan touched his nose. The other 2 states were lost because we kept fighting the Liang dynasty in the south. There were not many people guarding the city, and there was no one to take care of it, so the Liang dynasty cut off the retreat. How many soldiers he sacrificed to conquer those 2 states, and they were taken back by the Liang dynasty in a blink of an eye. He felt very sick. But they were a bunch of rough men, few of whom knew how to govern the city, and they did not do a good job of pacifying the people in the city. They were instigated to rebel, and they had to cooperate with the outside. This was also a big lesson for him. So now, except for Suzhu, the other 4 states also sent heavy troops to guard. Just the people to govern? He was also worried. If the officials of the Liang dynasty were driven away, there would be no one. If they were not driven away, he was afraid that they would be dissatisfied and worried that they would do things behind his back. And when they asked them for military expenses, They often had this and that problem. They asked for some money and were stingy, saying that the tax revenue could not be collected and there was no money in the government. What could Lu Bachan do? He couldn't send troops to kill them one by one. He was in a big headache. Pei 11 and his grandson were just walking outside the flower hall, and they happened to hear this conversation between him and his wife. He understood. "Sir, madam, Pei 11 wants to see you." When Lu Bachan heard this, he immediately went to the door and welcomed the person in. "Mr. Pei, please take a seat." "No, no, no, I will just sit at the bottom." Seeing that he insisted, LV Bachan had to sit back at the top. Seeing that Pei 11 had brought his grandson with him, Su Qingmei did not leave. Looking at Pei Ji, he saw that he was now ruddy, and it was obvious that he had recovered. Looking at Pei 11 bringing this grandson with him in everything, one may be nervous. After all, this is the only one left in the direct line, and two, it seems that Pei 11 intends to train him personally. When I was in Chang'an before, I heard of Lord Lu's reputation and admired him very much. I dare not. I am just a rough man, and I heard about the Pei family when I was very young. The Pei family has made an indelible contribution to the prosperity and stability of Dashuo. I have also met your mother in Chang'an before, but it's a pity that I didn't have the opportunity to ask him for advice. The two of them exchanged pleasantries. Then they got to the point. If Bachan can get help from Mr. Pei, he will be even more powerful. I dare not. If you don't mind, I am willing to serve you. That's great. So, from today on, you are the governor of Suzhou, and I will hand over all the affairs of Suzhou to you. Pei 11 was shocked. I dare not. I just came here, and it's not appropriate for me to take up an important position. There's nothing wrong. It turns out that the governor of Suzhou fled back to the Central Plains, and the remaining officials were not valued before, and I stayed here, and now the military advisor is in charge, but it won't last long. Suzhou has been a military stronghold since ancient times, and it is the first place for the Central Plains and other forces to attack from the south. It is of utmost importance. I hope you will help Bachan to guard the gate of Zhenhai. Pei 11 knelt down with a bang. Pei 11 will not fail you. Very good. Suzhou will rely on you in the future. Yes, I will live up to your trust. The two then talked about Suzhou's affairs for several hours, until the afterglow of the setting sun shone into the hall, and then they dispersed. Pei 11 walked out of the flower hall with his grandson, and there seemed to be a fire burning in his chest. He didn't expect it to be so smooth, and Lord Lu trusted him so much that he let him serve as the governor of Suzhou. Among the several states in Zhenhai, Suzhou is obviously the gateway and the most important. Otherwise Master Lu would not have set up his base camp in Suzhou, and he himself is also based in Suzhou. Let's not talk about Yangzhou, let's talk about other states. Whether it is climate, environment, or economy, which one is not richer than Suzhou? Since the Lord trusts him, he will not let the Lord down. Nowadays, adults are in desperate need of capable officials. Cheer, I will grind ink for my grandfather at night. My grandfather wants to write some letters. Yes. In the flower hall, Su Qingyu also talked about this matter with Lu Bachan. You gave such an important position so easily. Without checking it out. Lu Bachan shook his head. If he dares to come here, he must be confident. And I am not only looking at him as a person, but also the connections in his hands. Although the Pei family is lonely now, a skinny camel is bigger than a horse. What I lack now is man. If he can find some capable people to help me govern several states, why can't I Zhenhai do something good? In the future, when I lead troops outside, I don't have to worry about the Liang dynasty attacking, and I don't have to guard the north. And there is a Wu state next door, so how can I feel at ease? Although Zhenhai only has 5 states, if we manage it well no one else dares to provoke me easily. Suqingyu looked at Lu Bachan blankly. After not seeing each other for several years, she felt that Lu Bachan had changed and became, well, like a mountain. A mountain that could make her and all his subordinates feel at ease. "Madam, why do you think so much about being a husband? Do you want to be a husband? Otherwise." Suqingyu glared at him. "It's not dark yet, and you just want to do good things. It was useless for me to think about it when you were not here, but now that you are in front of me, why don't you let me think about it? I have been a vegetarian for many years." "Madam, you are really cruel. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises." "Madam, she has a tender heart." Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 417. Recite the URL 3 times silently. Do you remember it? If not, I will ask again in the next chapter. It would be best if you could share it on Facebook for me. Suqingmei has only been here for 1 day, and Lu Bachan can't wait to stick to her and stare at her. In broad daylight, he can't wait to close the door and draw the window. "Don't make a fuss. Your brother-in-law is waiting for you to learn from him. He came here this time just to gain experience by your side. See how to arrange him. And Si Yuan by my side. He and Si Yuan have been following me for years and have worked hard without complaint. Si Yuan married Ruyi and is about to become a father, but Si Yuan has no place to go. And Lu Xiu by Uncle Xian and the guards I brought with me, see how you arrange them. They all came to join you." When it came to business, Lu Bachan immediately became serious. He pondered for a long time. "It's easy to arrange for Si Yuan, Lu Xiu, and others. If they want to earn military merit, there are many opportunities in the army. But if Si Yuan goes to the barracks, you won't have anyone to follow you, and I'm worried. If I go out, can't you arrange a few people for me? Si Yuan is a bit of a waste of talent with me." "Okay. Then I'll take him to the camp tomorrow. As for my brother-in-law, Xingyang has grown up so fast. He's only 15 years old, but he's quite tall and strong. He has learned a lot of skills following Uncle Xian over the years. Will your parents-in-law be willing to let him follow you out? If something happens, won't they feel bad? How to arrange for your brother-in-law?" Lu Bachan was a little worried. "It won't work if it's too light, and it won't work if it's too heavy. If there's any mistake, not to mention that it's hard to explain to your parents-in-law, I'm afraid his wife will also make him blind. What if my parents disagree? He is determined to come out, and there is nothing we can do about him. Besides, my parents will feel relieved when he is with you." "Hiss, you are relieved, but how to arrange for this brother-in-law, my dear brother?" Lu Bachan was a little worried. Suqing'an saw that he looked like he had a toothache, and pushed him. "You go and talk to them. I see there are many training grounds in the mansion. You can try them yourself and then arrange according to the situation." "Okay. Then the lady will go with me. You go, I will go to the kitchen. I will make you some delicious food in the evening. I brought a lot of food from home. It's just right to call all your subordinates who live in the mansion to have a good meal in the evening." "Okay. Then the lady, you can cook more, they can eat." "Okay, I know." Lu Bachan went to find Xingyang and Si Yuan, and Suqing'an also took Guo, Tian, and 2 maids to the kitchen. "Madam, why are you in the kitchen? If you need anything, just tell us and we'll prepare it for you." The fat chef, Dingda, was surprised to see her coming. Several kitchen helpers and firemen also stood up, feeling very nervous. "Don't be nervous, just be casual. I brought some food from home, and I want to personally cook a hometown meal for you adults in the evening, and also prepare a few dishes for the military advisors and generals living in the mansion. You don't have to worry about me. Then, let's help madam." "Okay. Thank you very much. Madam, you are too polite. This is what we should do. My God, this lady is so approachable, they like her so much. So King Mei took a look around the kitchen's inner storeroom. There were quite a lot of things stored, including a lot of seasonings, rice, noodles, and vegetables, which were very abundant. But the dishes made in the kitchen were really disappointing. It was a bit of a waste. The guards who came with them helped to move the food brought from the mountains, and Su King Mei ordered everyone in the kitchen to help. Everyone was busy soaking, washing, cutting, and mixing. Soon, Xianyang also came with Xiangxiu to help. Dingda and other kitchen helpers would occasionally take a peek at Su King Mei cooking, and their eyes were wide open. Is cooking so particular? Even a plate needs to be carved? Compared with what the lady usually cooks, it's like pig food, right? Look at the lady holding a large spatula. From the smooth and skillful performance, it can be seen that the wife is not pretending, but really cooks at home often. Dingda forgot to cut the vegetables and just stared at Suqing's movements. Suqing's pa saw him staring and couldn't help thinking. Guo went to the human tooth to find a chef, but she didn't know if she could find a suitable candidate. Even if she found someone, it would take some time to get used to each other. Since the few people in the kitchen are trustworthy and the most loyal, it's better to bring them out. If they are really not the right material, we will deal with it separately. Dingda saw Suqing's look at him and turned his head away. It's over, he was discovered by the wife. These are all private jobs of each family. How can he watch them? He deserves to be beaten. Just when he was about to admit his mistake, he heard Suqing say, Dingda, you watch and learn. I can't come to the kitchen every day in the future. Hey, thank you, madam, I will definitely learn it carefully. Ding was overjoyed. He was originally a poor kid, otherwise he would not have been drafted to the battlefield. He had never learned cooking, but he learned a few tricks from the military chef. However, he cooked the big pot meals in the army. It was good enough to cook well and feed everyone. There was no need to care about anything else. Now that he could learn a few tricks from his wife, Dingda immediately became very excited. Su King Mei explained to him while she was cooking, and Dingda watched very seriously. After it was done, Su King Mei pushed the dish to him, try it. Dingda took a bite, his eyes widened, and he gave a thumbs up, it's delicious. How about salty? Just right. I put less salt than you. The dishes you made for lunch all felt salty when we ate them. Eating too salty is not good for the body, but I don't know if everyone will think it is too bland. Dingda shook his head violently, no, madam, I also think the food I cook is too salty, but I can't control it every time. Su Qingyu asked all the cooks in the kitchen to taste it, and everyone said it was delicious and that it was salty just right. Su Qingyu was relieved, okay, let's keep it like this for now. If everyone thinks it's bland, then add salt to it. Not too light, just right. Seeing that everyone praised her dishes, Su Qingyu knew better. While cooking and teaching, I would chat with the fat chef from time to time. I see there are 2 big bags of salt piled up in the warehouse. Is Suzhou salt very cheap? Salt is expensive. But our salt is free. Ah, why do we buy salt for free? Because Chuzhou is now under your jurisdiction, a few bags of salt is nothing. Chuzhou produces salt. Yes, Chuzhou is close to the sea, and there are many salt cooking plants on the seaside. Su Qingyu was stunned. Chuzhou produces salt. Chuzhou. Su Qingyu thought of the location of Chuzhou on the map. Will Yanqing be under the jurisdiction of Chuzhou? Many of the place names on the current map do not match up with the modern place names. It is close to the sea and produces salt. I don't know if it is Yanqing. If it was really Yanqing, there would be so much to do, and Lu Bachan wouldn't have to worry about military expenses. Su Qingyu and others worked in the kitchen for more than an hour, and finally put the food in order. Over in the front hall, the general, military advisors, personal soldiers, and a group of guards who were supposed to be back were all back. When they heard that the madam was coming, they were all happy for you. They also heard that tonight's meal will be served by the madam herself. Renovation is even more satisfying. They all sat at the table, looking forward to it and their eyes glowing green. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 418. Recite the URL silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Everyone was happy to have this meal. What did they eat before? Pig food. Tell Dingda to stop staying in the kitchen. He is just a waste. Tell him to go to the barracks and clean the stables. It's just that my stomach has been poisoned by him for so many years. I can't bear it. I want to eat my wife's cooking every day, which tastes like home. What wonderful things are you thinking about? You also want your wife to cook for you every day. Why are you so big-faced? Lu Bachan couldn't help but say, that's right, why don't you just stay here when it's cool? I can't bear to let my wife cook every day. When everyone heard this, they hurriedly cheered, my lord, you have a wife, so you don't want me to wait, and you want us to stay where we can to cool off. The gentle country, the tomb of heroes. Go away. You know what nonsense, everyone made a fuss. Gu Changqing brought Xian Niang to propose a toast to Su Qingyu. Thank you, madam, for helping me take care of my home, taking care of Xian Niang, and bringing her to me. Thank you, madam, Changqing. General Gu, you're welcome. Niang Xian also helped me a lot. If it weren't for her, there would be less outstanding female teachers in the academy. Speaking of female gentlemen, I would like to thank madam even more. I didn't know that Xian Niang could be a gentleman. When I learned the news, I was quite surprised. That's because you don't understand me, Xian Niang glared at him angrily. Su Qinjiao also smiled, yes, if she hadn't come to you, Xian Niang would still be the most outstanding female teacher in the school. She has taught many girls in the mountains and is loved by them. My wife is willing to give her this opportunity. Lu Zhong, Pei Yan, and others also came to toast Su Qingyu and thank her for helping take care of her family. The family can live a stable and comfortable life in the mountains, which also makes those who are charging ahead feel relieved. The meal was eaten until the moon was high, and then it was gone. Qingyang and Si Yuan came to see Su Qingyu. Sister, my brother-in-law asked me to follow him to the military camp tomorrow. Do you want to go? I think so. I came to the north just to get some training on the battlefield. My brother-in-law fought against me in the evening, and he even praised my skills. After Qingyang finished speaking, the corners of his mouth curled up, and he looked a little proud. He was very happy to be recognized by his brother-in-law. Okay. Then you can train with your brother-in-law in the camp first. Don't be impatient. You must listen to your brother-in-law's instructions and don't be willful. Remember your parents' words and protect yourself. If you make any mistakes, let them know. How do they live? Qingyang nodded, I remember. Si Yuan on the side said, don't worry, miss, I will follow the young master. Okay. You both need to be well. Okay. Don't worry, sister. Don't worry, miss. At night, after Lu Bachan was satisfied, he held Su Qingyu for a long time and couldn't calm down. The strange way is to only envy mandarin ducks but not immortals. This is how people live their lives. Madam, that's great. What? I'm happy that you're here. Lu Bachan held Sukingyu tightly in his arms and kissed him again and again until Sukingyu pushed him away. You're not done yet. It's not over. I haven't had enough yet. You said you've delayed me for so many years, why don't you hurry up and make up for me? Get started. I'm so tired that I'm going to sleep. No, again. Don't want. I want. Get off. No, he rushed forward again. The next day, Lu Bachan took his brother-in-law, Si Yuan and others out of the mansion. The two guards guarding the door stared at his back. Sir, you seem to be particularly happy today. Nonsense, how can you be unhappy? Are you still unhappy that Madam is here? I see you can't close your mouth. It's so early in the morning. I've never seen you so happy. You would also be happy if you had your lovely wife in your arms at night. As you said, I want to find a woman to start a family. I thought you were going to take a few days off. Why did Madam just come yesterday and go to the military camp in such a hurry today? You think you are the master? You will be lazy. How can I be lazy? Yes, if you are not lazy, you will only secretly think about getting a wife and starting a family, and you won't even want to guard the door. You don't want to? Want to be a bachelor? In no mood. The two started arguing at the door early in the morning. Sukingnao slept until 3 o'clock in the morning before getting up with her waist in hand. After freshening up, Xiang Shang took the people to the street, and Guo and Tian also went out. She sat in a daze for a while, suddenly not knowing what to do. I have been busy in the mountains before, but now I feel a little uncomfortable. It happened that Xian Niang came to see her, so she took her to the kitchen to cook breakfast and Chinese food, and left the extra for Dingda and others. Dingda just learned a few dishes from his wife yesterday, and he learned a few more today, which is very happy. As soon as Sukingyu left, she started practicing in the kitchen. After dinner, Sukingyu took Xian Niang and a few guards out. Suzhou City has been quiet for a while since it changed its owner. But later, the people found that the new adults were more reliable than the previous adults. They did not exploit or disturb the people. Several city gates were heavily guarded. Even cats and dogs did not dare to come in casually. They felt so at ease living in the city. Moreover, the security on the streets is much better than before, and people are willing to go out and walk around again. Along the way, Sukingyu found that although the streets were not as prosperous as Renzhou, Reizhou and other places, all the shops were open, and only a few shops were closed. It said it was for sale, but there were also many people standing at the door to look at it. Someone must have wanted to redeem it. If there is buying and selling, then the market will not be a stagnant water, and the market will be alive. A few people walked around and bought a lot of things. Sukingyu also had a general understanding of the prices, scenery, and passenger flow on the street. I also went to Yahang to learn about the rental and sale situation of fields and houses. I walked around until sunset and then returned to my house. As soon as they entered the gate, they saw Lu Bachan hurriedly walking out. What to do? Lu Bachan's eyes lit up. Madam, are you back? I was just going to find you. Sukingyu gave him a blank look after hearing this. Isn't she coming back tonight? Going out to find her? Xian Niang, Ning Dong, and others laughed. Lu Bachan also felt quite embarrassed and said to Xian Niang, Chang Qing is also back. I guess he is looking for you too. Xian Niang was anxious. My lord, madam, I'll go in first. She walked in quickly. Yubai, Ning Dong, and others carried their things and lowered their heads before walking into the house. Soon they were the only two people left at the door. The two doormen didn't dare to look around, but their ears were raised high. Why are you back so early? I'll go back if nothing happens. Madam, did you go to the city? Why did you go? Go and have a look. I plan to buy some land for shops. Buy a shop or land? Madam, Are you short of money? After Lu Bachan finished speaking, he patted his head. It seems that Yu Junzong hasn't taken any money from the government yet. I'll tell them tomorrow. Su Qingyu stopped him. No need to pull it out. The army is in the army, and the government is in the government. From now on, we need to keep separate accounts, don't mix them into one bunch. Lu Bachan nodded. Then I don't need my wife to take care of the household. I still have money in my hand, and I will use it all for silver later. Okay, hand it all over, man. Why don't you keep a private room? At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bh Yaoye 11U. Chapter 419. Recite the URL silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. After dinner in the evening, Lu Bachan really turned over his private money. Su Qingyu was dumbfounded when she saw it. Madam, I gave it all to you. Seeing Su Qingyu's surprised look, Lu Bachan hurriedly expressed his attitude. You really gave it all to me? Lu Bachan couldn't help but nod. It's true. After thinking about it, he shook his head again. Su Qingyu breathed a sigh of relief and said, this number is obviously wrong. Then I heard Lu Bachan say, I still have dozens of taels of silver in my purse, but you can't take them all. If someone asks me to treat them to a drink, I won't be able to pay them. How embarrassing it will be. After giving him most of it, the lady wouldn't let him keep even a few dozen taels, right? But think about it, before he went to the battlefield, he only gave his wife a dozen taels for household expenses. These dozens of taels seem to be quite a lot. Otherwise, should I give you some more? I'll just keep 10 taels. Lu Bachan held the money bag tightly, a little reluctantly. Su Qingyu's eyes widened. You are the governor of 5 states, and you only have 2,000, how many more? In the past few years, you sent home 100 taels of gold. In the past, the imperial court gave me a salary, and I could get some silver rewards from time to time. Now I live on my own, and no one can pay me any money. I can save all this because I am frugal. Su Qingyu was dumbfounded. What's happening here? Does being a boss mean you are poorer than your employees? It was simply unheard of and unseen. Didn't you still have trophies before, but now they are gone? You have been fighting a lot of battles in recent years. Yes, there are, but they are all given to the quartermaster in exchange for silver, Lu Bachan said so confidently. Is it easy for him to raise an army of hundreds of thousands? Su Qingyu looked at him blankly. What should she say? I saw him patting his forehead again. Oh, I forgot that I secretly kept some. Madam, please wait for me, wait for me. After saying that, he turned around and ran to the inner room. Su Qingyu also followed in. I was quite looking forward to it. As soon as I entered the inner room, I saw that guy crawling under the bed. No one can stop him. What are you doing? I had to squat down and ask him. Madam, please keep your voice down, Lu Bachan said to her from under the bed. Could it be that there is some treasure hidden? A lot more? Su Qingyu couldn't help but keep silent. After a while, Lu Bachan came out with a jar from under the bed. Su Qingyu's eyes lit up. When Lu Bachan wiped the jar clean and poured out the contents, Su Qingyu was too lazy to say anything. A small box of pearls, not too small, each one as big as a finger, but only about 10. A few pieces of jade, the waterheads look pretty good. There is also a round jade stone as big as a fist, and the rest are gold in various shapes. A total of half a jar was filled with these things. Why haven't you changed your habit of hiding gold? Which piece of jade is not more valuable than your gold? The jade is valuable, but it can't be sold. These pieces were given back to me by the quartermaster who thought he had lost money on the sale. That's really hard for you. Tisk tisk. Gold can still be used as money. It's a pity that when I escaped from Fengxiang, I didn't take out the jar of gold hidden in the camp. I don't know who got the advantage in the end. It makes my heart hurt to think about it. But, madam, look at this round one. The quartermaster said it was chalcedony, and it was very valuable. He was reluctant to sell it when others offered it too low. Except for this gold. Sukingnao weighed it briefly and found that it was probably worth a few hundred taels of silver. That box of pearls and jade probably wouldn't be worth much now. He said, put the others back into the jar and bury them back. Leave the gold for the flowers. Don't you leave some for my son. Sukingyu glared at him. You don't have a penny in the house's account now, and you still want to leave it to your son. Don't people in this house need to eat or drink? Lu Bachan touched his nose. Then you should keep the gold for spending, and you can't spend your wife's money. While putting the jade stones into the jar, he said, why don't you bury it back? Madam, why don't you use these pearls and jade stones to make jewelry? I don't want it. I don't know who has used it. It's better to keep it until the world is better in the future and sell it for money. That's okay. Lu Bachan put the jade and pearls back into the jar and buried them under the bed. Sukinjao was unable to complain about the channels through which he hid his money. But think about it, there is no safe, the underground under the bed is really the safest place. Wait for him to come out, dust him off, and ask him, you usually don't get your salary. No, I have food, drink, and money. How can I get my salary? What's the point of going out of my left pocket and into my right pocket? Besides, if the army has no money, why don't they all ask me for it? Will I have to spend my personal money at that time? Sukingyu was stunned. What kind of theory is this? As a boss, if you don't get a monthly salary, don't you get a year-end bonus? And how can public and private be confused? You can't collect taxes in several states? There's no revenue in the yamen. Yes, there is, but it's not enough to feed and drink hundreds of thousands of troops. Besides, each state has to feed its people, so it's better to save some. Sukingyu was completely speechless. Quite helpless. I'd better go buy land and shop tomorrow, but I don't dare to expect you to support my family. Upon hearing this, Lu Bachan hurriedly grabbed her, put her hand in his palm and rubbed it. How can I let my wife do the work of supporting the family? I am rich now. Didn't I just give you 3,000 taels? 3,000 taels, a lot. Lu Bachan nodded blankly, not much. Madam, you have such a big appetite. I can barely afford it. When I left, I only left you a dozen taels. Look, you haven't raised your son yet. If I had to rely on your 10 taels, we, mother and son, would have starved to death. Lu Bachan didn't dare to look at her, and touched his nose again. Many people who retired from the army, when they returned home, some of them only had the 10 taels of Angia silver they received from the army. My 3,000 taels is already many times that of others. But Lu Bachan didn't dare to say this, for fear that his wife would offend him. Sukingyu didn't plan to talk to him. He took his hand out and put it on the table, thinking about buying land and a shop. What kind of business do you want to buy a shop for? When buying land, should I hire people to work it or rent it out? Madam, do not bother me. How about I get the same salary as them from now on? I'll go to the army tomorrow to talk about it. Sukingyu glared at him. Are you so poor in these states? How can you still save money without getting a salary for a jadushi? When Lu Bachan heard her talking about this, he nodded repeatedly and complained to her. I'm so poor. The army was short of money last month. I asked Chuzhu for money. Chuzhu said he had no money, so he only gave me 100,000 taels. Even 100,000 taels wouldn't last 2 months. I'm so worried. I thought Chuzhu produces salt and is richer than other states, but I didn't expect that the government still couldn't get the money. Lu Bachan looked sad. Are we going to use the captured cities to exchange money with others to feed the army again? Doesn't that mean helping others fight for territory? So sad. Sukinjao now knows that modern Yanchinj is under the jurisdiction of Chuzhu at this time. The whole city of Yanchinj is called Yanchinj because all around the city are salt fields, so it was renamed Yanchinj. The beach area along its coast is hundreds of thousands of hectares, accounting for 70% of the beach area in Jiangsu province. Yet the Chuzhu Yamen says Chuzhu has no money. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 420. Recite the URL silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Sukingyu felt that Lu Bachan was too good at being a Jadushi, unable to complain. Have you never checked the Chuzhu Yaman's salt, iron, money, and grain accounts? The military advisor and others checked it, but no problem was found. There is really no money in the account. Sukingyu stroked her forehead. Isn't she so weak? Then he asked, are the officials of the Chuzhu Yamen still the officials of the Liang dynasty? Lu Bachan's eyes widened. Ah, madam, you even know this? How do you know? Sukinjao rolled her eyes. Luck, can't be angry, can't be angry. There is no one who is omnipotent. He already has martial arts skills, so we can no longer ask too much of him. Sukingyu tried her best to suppress her rising temper. He asked him very kindly, if the food sold in a restaurant is delicious and expensive, will you go in? Then I'm stupid for going in. Sukingyu looked at him steadily and smiled at him. Lu Bachan didn't know why. Is this the wrong answer? The lady laughed so hard that his heart went crazy. After thinking for a while, he tentatively said, then, why don't you go in and have a taste? If it really tastes bad, can I come out again? Is there anything wrong with this answer? Sukingyu was so angry that she picked up a piece of gold on the table and threw it at him. He yelled at him, the Qingshui Yamen, which has no oil, water, or money, has changed its master. This master is poor, not weak in force, and has hundreds of thousands of soldiers and horses at hand. Why do you think the officials in Chuzhu stayed? Why don't you go and hug Liang Chao's lap? Lu Bachan didn't understand what he heard and nodded, yes, I won't stay even if you ask me. Sukinjao was extremely angry. Then they stayed. Why do you think they stayed? Why? After Lu Bachan finished asking, he was suddenly stunned and slapped his thigh. Madam, are you saying that Chuzhu is not poor? Not poor. Maybe even rich as hell. Lu Bachan stood up suddenly. You little monkey, how dare you lie to me? Yubai. Before he could get angry, Sukingnao had already called the girl. Yubai ran in quickly. Go to the front yard and call Mr. Pei over. Yes, Yubai responded and left. What do you want Mr. Pei to do at this time? Lu Bachan didn't know why. Don't you want to conquer Haizhu? Lu Bachan was a little stunned. Wasn't he talking about Chuzhu? Why is the lady talking about Haizhu again? But he still nodded, I want to, but the quartermaster said that we are not ready enough now. Lack of preparation means nothing more than a lack of money, food, and various military supplies. He said, ask Mr. Pei to go to Chuzhu and serve as the governor of Chuzhu. Your military expenses will be sufficient. Ah! Why did Mr. Pei not lack military expenses as soon as he went to Chuzhu? Could it be that the governor of Chuzhu really concealed the truth? Pei Shi arrived soon. Sukingyu told him the reason. Pei Shi was stunned as he listened, a little confused. Chuzhu, Yamen, no money, he spoke with difficulty. Did he hear wrongly? Pei Shi felt incredible when he saw both the master and his wife nodding. I remember that in the previous dynasty, during the peaceful years, the annual salt tax revenue was generally around 7 million yuan, accounting for 30% of the entire dynasty's fiscal revenue. By the end of the previous dynasty, the annual salt tax revenue was as high as tens of millions yuan, with the highest it amounts to 17 million yuan, accounting for 50% of the annual fiscal revenue, and the salt tax in Lianghuai accounts for 50% of the national salt tax. Now, sir, the government in Chuzhou has no money. What a big joke. After Lu Bachan heard this, he was so angry. How dare you conceal the truth? Dare to bully him into not knowing how to read an account book? How dare you be so bold and dare to swallow so much money? Did the Chuzhou Yamen still pay tribute to the Liang dynasty after taking the money? He was so angry that he kicked over a low stool with a loud bang. Master Pei, starting from tomorrow, you will be appointed as the governor of Chuzhou. I will arrange for someone else to take office in Chuzhou. Is it so casual? I know you are worried, but I am here to recommend a more suitable candidate than me. The current situation in Chuzhou is obvious. The government officials must be collaborating, covering up each other, and forming a den of corruption. They must have ruthless officials to give them a heavy hammer. This will also serve as a deterrent to other states. I know a person. His methods are more ruthless than my subordinates. He is more suitable for this position than my subordinates. Now he is in Jin. Waiting for me to finish writing the letter, I ordered someone to deliver it to him quickly. When I heard it, it was me who called, "He will come, he will come." Lu Bachan was overjoyed. Who is he? When he comes, I will introduce it to you and your lady. It is not suitable for us to alert the enemy now. However, you can arrange some people to go to Chuzhou to secretly monitor the people in the Chuzhou Yamen. The key point is to send people to the salt field to find out situation to prevent them from escaping with their money. Okay, I'll make arrangements immediately. The three of them agreed on Chuzhou's affairs, and Suking Nao thought that since Pei Shi was still the governor of Chuzhou, she also wanted to mention Chuzhou's economy to him. She couldn't watch Lu Bachan worry about military supplies. A military governor only had less than 3,000 taels of silver in his hands, and no one would believe him even if he told her. He was so poor that most of his subordinates were probably short of food and clothing. The hearts of the soldiers cannot be chilled. He said, Chuzhou is an important military town with a large population. It must develop its own economy and cannot just rely on the other four states for supplies. Yes, Madam is right. I have been in the Yamen all day today checking the accounts from previous years. But they are only from the past few years. Chuzhou is also very poor. Lu Bachan shook his head and said helplessly, if Chuzhou is not poor, can I ask Chuzhou for military expenses? It was just that he was too poor, so he left Haizhou there and did not capture it. Now he has the kingdom of Wu next door, the kingdom of Jin above him, and Haizhou, the territory of the Liang dynasty. Down there are Runzhou and Jiangning, which are also maps of the Liang dynasty. He feels like someone has made a dumpling. Accurate. Very unhappy. We still need to capture Haizhou as soon as possible. But the quartermaster said there was no money and insufficient preparations. You can't just start an army rashly and then run out of food on the way and be cut off from your retreat, right? Seeing that the Lord did not understand what Madam meant, Pei Shi said to Suking Yu, Madam, do you have any good ideas? I heard that my wife has a lot of property in her hands, and she also has a lot of land in Yu. If adults also have Madam's vision and ability to make money, why should Jinhai worry about not being rich? Fortunately, the lady is here now. Suking Yu said, do you think the world is peaceful now? It's not peaceful. I used to be fighting in my dreams. Madam, are you saying that the world is not peaceful and business is not easy to do? Is this what you mean? Suking Yu shook her head, if the world is peaceful, there will be peaceful business, If the world is unfair, there will be unfair business. The world is unfair and there is still a profitable business. Is the lady a magician? Knowing that he was short of money, God sent his wife to him. Seeing the light in their eyes, Sukingyu didn't intend to continue to be dumb and said, selling weapons. The world is unfair, selling weapons is the most profitable. Selling troops, man, there is nothing better than this. Bought and sold. But we don't have either. This business is indeed possible. As long as we find more blacksmiths and make more weapons, we won't have to worry about selling them. But we need to have iron and stone, and we need to have lots and lots of them. Why did Madam say this? It shouldn't be aimless. Pei Shi suddenly became excited. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhyaoye 11U. Chapter 421. Recite the URL silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. We have iron and stone, and there are many, many, Sukingyu said suddenly. Both of them were stunned. Is there iron and stone in Suzhou? Madam, are you saying that there are iron mines in Suzhou? Pei Shi's heart rose in his throat. Madam, you can't lie to me. Pei Shi stared at Sukingyu while pressing his heart that was beating non-stop. Sukingyu nodded. Yes, not only is there, but it is a large-scale mineral deposit. And what a coincidence, she knew exactly where it was. This iron mine was not discovered until the Song dynasty. During the Song dynasty, the mining and refining industries were very developed. After being discovered, the court dug for several years, but then they didn't continue digging for some reason. I don't know if it had something to do with the Song dynasty's emphasis on literature over military affairs. It was not until modern times that an iron ore company was established at that iron mine and continued to mine it. She can't control whether the wings of history will flap along with it. The previous dynasty was Zhou, not Tang. I can't control it anymore. Just after doing some mental preparation in a mess, she saw the eyes of the 2 people glowing green, staring straight at her. Why are you looking at me like that? Madam, are you telling the truth and not lying to me? Madam, is it true? If there were iron mines in Suzhou, we in Suzhou would not be poor, maybe we would be extremely rich. Pei Shi was very excited, for fear that Sukingyu had remembered it wrong or said something wrong. Moreover, Madam has never been to Suzhou. How did she know that there are iron mines in Suzhou? Pei Shi's heart was rising and falling, and he was not stable. Seeing Sukingyu frowning, his heart clenched again. Sukingyu said to the 2 of them, the news must be true, and I know where it is. You don't have to worry about where I got the news. You just need to send someone to inquire and you will know the truth. I am now the worry is that if the news leaks out, Suzhou may not be stable. Who doesn't want an iron mine? In the era of cold weapons, whoever has the most cutting-edge weapons, iron stones, and iron tools will have the right to speak. What's more, in the current environment, whoever has a strong fist will stand for a long time. Don't worry, madam, the hundreds of thousands of people under my command are not vegetarians either. Okay, then I'll tell you my location and you can send someone to check it out. Okay. I'll take them there myself tomorrow. After Lu Bachan finished speaking, Sukingyu glanced at him and knew that he valued it, so he didn't say anything more. The 2 of them insisted on pestering Sukingyu and talking all night, as if they had been given blood, until Sukingyu became too sleepy and couldn't stand it anymore, so they broke up. Lu Bachan carried his wife to the bed and kissed her again and again. She didn't even wake up. She seemed very sleepy. He was too promiscuous last night. His wife had been on the road for more than 2 months, and he was still not considerate of her. He stared at her sleeping face quietly for a long time, feeling that God was treating him well. He kissed her gently twice more, didn't dare to make any more movements, hugged his wife and fell asleep. When Sukingyu woke up, Lu Bachan was no longer in bed. Thinking that he might have to go for several days to investigate this time, and Pei Shi would also hurry up to find a blacksmith and post a list to recruit talents. I'm afraid I'll be very busy next time. Sukingyu suggested to Pei Shi yesterday that since he wants to recruit blacksmiths, he might as well post another list and recruit capable people with virtue and knowledge from all over the world. There is a shortage of people in several states now, and some of the unsuitable ones, those who are in their prime positions, have to be replaced. Don't take your salary. If you don't work, you will be in the CAO camp and your heart will be in the Han dynasty. While Pei Shi ordered people to post recruitment lists, he sent urgent letters to his close friends, welcoming them to Jinhai to show off their skills. Sukingyu was not idle either. For several days in a row, Mrs. Guo went to the Renya office to look for the maid and the old woman. Xiang Shang went to the Xiu mansion to make accounts and inspect the market. She took Mrs. Tian and the 2 maids to visit the shops. Look at Tiandi's Wangzi. When you come back in the evening, if you're not tired, go to the kitchen and teach Chef Ding a few dishes. Chef Ding looked forward to her coming every day, leaning against the door of the kitchen with eyes wide open. Now after eating the food cooked by his wife, and then eating the food he cooked himself, he can't even eat it and will vomit. After dinner was ready, he called Qing Yang, Si Yuan, and Lu Xiu over to eat together and asked them about the situation in the military camp. Seeing that they are all adapting well, although they are a little tired every day, they are very fulfilling. Moreover, they recite various slogans while training every day in the camp. They all feel that it makes sense. They sweat more in peacetime and bleed less in war. It makes so much sense. Sukingyu was embarrassed when she heard that. At first, he was just afraid that Lu Bachan would not care about him, work too hard on the battlefield, and be afraid that he would be a widow, so he muttered some words to Lu Bachan. How could I expect that this guy would use it as a training slogan for the military? Have you asked her? Eat, eat more. This bacon is brought from the mountains. Eat 1 piece and lose 1 piece. As he said this, he gave the 3 people a lot. Don't talk about slogans anymore. The meat in our mountains is still delicious, with good texture and good taste. I just miss the food in our mountains. Several people were plucking rice into their mouths while sighing, what are all those things cooked in military kitchens, is it for human consumption? But now that I have come, and I have considered the hardships of the conditions, I can no longer complain. You choose your own path. If you don't make some achievements, you won't be able to return to the mountains. Lu Bachan didn't return to the house until the 8th day. When he entered, he hugged Sukingyu tightly and inhaled the fragrance of her hair and her smell. It really is the tomb of heroes of Wenwen Township. I haven't thought about it that way since my wife didn't come here and we were separated all the time. Now that we've only been separated for a few days, I can't think about it anymore. It's broad daylight, let me go. It's broad daylight, so who dares to come in? Madam. Ning Dong called out from outside, and then footsteps were heard. Lu Bachan let her go immediately. Suqing glared at him and walked to the outer room. After a while, when she came in again, she saw Lu Bachan staring at her with a face full of resentment. Suqing said angrily, "Don't look at me like that. Tell me what you got from this trip. Is there really an iron ore?" Lu Bachan pulled her into his arms and sat her on his lap. He nodded to her vigorously, "Yes. And it's exactly the same as what my wife said. The underground mineral deposits are very rich. I guess my grandson won't be able to mine them all." "Really? Did the prospector you brought over say that?" "Yes. And the best thing is that you only need to dig a shallow layer, and it's all iron and stone, so you don't have to dig deeper. Suqing'an knew that the iron mine had rich mineral deposits in the shallow surface layer, and the reserves were very rich. It has been mined for decades with all kinds of sophisticated instruments, and it has not been exhausted. Under the current conditions, it is really possible to mine Xiaobeo's sons. So you are not short of money now. No, I sell weapons in Suzhou and salt in Chuzhou. Why should I worry about not being able to take Haizhou, Runzhou, Jiangning, and Changzhou? When these states are connected, they can be connected with Master's U state, and I don't have to worry all day long. Don't brag. If you want to take it, don't others want it? Can they take it if they want? They have to rob it? Tisk tisk, such arrogance. She finally knew who Xiaobeo inherited from. Remember when I asked you to recite it 3 times at the beginning of the chapter, share it on Facebook and there may be surprises. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhyaoye 11U. Chapter 422. Recite the URL silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Within a few days, the person Pei Shi mentioned who could serve as the governor of Chuzhou arrived. This man's name is Su Tang. He was the minister of Dali Temple in the previous dynasty and was a third-rank official. He has been familiar with the law since he was a child and knows the Shuo laws by heart. Because he is not afraid of power, does not like flattery, enforces the law strictly, and refuses to pursue selfish interests, he has offended many people were called cruel officials. They were kicked out in the late years of the previous dynasty and refused to join the ranks of Wuliang. Now they are enjoying teaching their children and grandchildren at home. When Lu Baqin heard about the cruel official, he frowned. Which official in history was the best? The methods are harsh and cruel. Lu Baqin was a little unhappy inside. Su Qingyu glanced at him and knew what he was thinking. He said, "Cruel officials, what do you think of them? They were originally created by the monarch in order to realize his autocratic rule. They were also victims. For example, Shangyang in the Qin dynasty, if he had not implemented strict laws in the Qin state, it would never have existed. The emperor is still unable to unify the 6 countries. The reason why they are called cruel officials is simply that they teach the law without following personal feelings, are not afraid of powerful people, and treat everyone equally. Even the prince is guilty of the same crime as the common people. If you offend others, they are not liked by others. But in special times and special circumstances, people like them have to be used. Otherwise, as far as Chuzhou is concerned, do you plan to be affectionate and rational with them? The cruel officials punish the evildoers severely to maintain the stability of the country. If you only reuse it when you need it and throw it away when you don't need it, it would be too chilling. Different people govern different environments at different times. Cruel officials strengthen public security and fight against the powerful. It's a bit like today's fight, black, elimination, evil. In troubled times, you need to use a heavy hammer to achieve miraculous results. These so-called ruthless officials usually have 3 characteristics. First, they are relatively honest. Second, they like to use heavy laws and are not afraid of the powerful, and dare to deal harsh blows to those who disobey the law, especially wealthy nobles. Third, they almost never fall into the trap. A good ending. It's sad. Su Qingyu added, as long as they do not harm the people and do not seek personal gain for themselves or others, then he is a good official. Pei Shi heard Mrs. Shenji's words and it was deep in his heart. Lu Baqin was thoughtful. Just when Su Qingneo wanted to persuade Lu Baqin a few more words, a lean middle-aged man strode in from outside the door and clasped his fists at Su Qingneo. "Madam is Su Tang's close friend and understands my heart well. Su Tang, I am willing to work hard for my wife and do my best. Mr. Su, please get up quickly and break me." Su Qingyu helped him up and introduced him to Lu Baqin personally. "This is my husband. His mother died when he was young, and his father married another man and didn't care much about him. He didn't read a few books, and his knowledge was limited. He knows how to fight and kill. Don't argue with him, Mr. Su. He is actually the most considerate of his subordinates. Mr. Su, Bo Cheng is polite. Su Tang has met the Lord. I am willing to follow the Lord, riding in front and behind the horse. Okay. I'm very relieved to have your help. Pei Shi watched Su Tang and Mr. Lu chatting happily, while his wife made tea for them and stroked his beard happily. Sir, it is a blessing from my previous life to have such a virtuous wife. No matter what happens in the future, Zhenhai is stable with adults and wives here. Lu Bachan talked with Su Tang all night about Chuzhu affairs, and they didn't leave until daybreak. Lu Bachan did some grooming, then returned to bed and saw his wife sleeping soundly. He kissed her again and again, then tiptoed and lay down beside her. Is the conversation over? Su Qingyu vaguely felt his presence and asked without opening her eyes. Okay. We're done talking. Did my husband wake you up? Yes, Su Qingyu responded vaguely, found a comfortable position in his arms, lay down, and fell asleep again. Lu Bachan was so depressed that he originally thought that he had woken up his wife, so that he could do what he wanted to do, but he did not expect that his wife would just take a breath and fall asleep again. I can't laugh or cry. Seeing that she was really sleepy, he had no choice but to give up and hug her to sleep. As for Su Tang, who was highly valued by his wife and the Lord, he felt that he had a heavy responsibility on his shoulders. After resting for only 2 hours, he took the troops arranged by the Lord and immediately rode out of the city to Chuzhu. A few days later, all the places in the mansion that needed repair were repaired, and the whole mansion looked brand new. There are also maids and women everywhere, unmarried masters, generals and soldiers living in the house. This is so happy. It's getting cold, so you don't have to go to the kitchen to find food in person anymore. The maid will bring it to the room. The clothes I changed were also collected and washed. They were washed, ironed, folded, and sent back to the room. This is how people live their lives. After training for a day, who would want to return to the house and fetch water and wash clothes by himself? Who doesn't wear it for 7 to 8 days and only wash it once every 10 days? It stinks, everyone is the same anyway, and don't women all call them stinky men? How about it not smelling bad? But now that clothes are collected and washed every day, and there are girls and women at home, who wants to be smelly and be a smelly man? Sure enough, a woman still needs to take care of the family. Su Qingyu didn't know that because of her arrival, many unmarried men wanted to start a family. Guo specially came to find her that day. Sister-in-law. Seeing that he was hesitating and couldn't hold in his fart for a long time, Lu Bachan kicked him. You came to see your sister-in-law at night, and you didn't say anything when you came. Are you stupid? If nothing happens, get out of here. Don't disturb us. I wasn't there during the day, so I finally had a chance to be gentle with my wife for a while at night, and then I came to cause trouble. Sir, you are not kind, Guo said with an accusing look on his face. Why am I not being kind? I have less food for you or less clothes for you. Still don't pay you. Or do I still have trophies for you to choose from? Guo shook his head, none of them. What is that? If you don't say anything, I will beat you out. Sir, have you forgotten? You said that when you meet my sister-in-law in the future, you will ask her to introduce me to a woman as beautiful and as good as my sister-in-law. You haven't followed me for these days. My sister-in-law said. Lu Bachan was dumbfounded when he heard this. What is this? He has been so busy these days, busy with military matters, busy sending people to mine and smelt iron ore, and busy coming back to hug his wife. Is he free? Is it because he is very idle? I'm going to kick him. Go Wa dodged and jumped to Su Qingyu's side. Su Qingyu smiled and said, Don't worry, Sister-in-law remembers it. You adults told me before when you were in Tiantai County. I also want to thank you very much. I have been with you all these years. Thank you for your desperate effort, sister-in-law. Sister-in-law, don't be like this. This is what I should do. Guo suddenly became at a loss. I couldn't speak clearly. I felt so embarrassed that I turned around and ran away. Why is he still running away? I also want to ask him what he likes. I don't know what he likes. How can I help him find it? Ignore him. I'll ask him tomorrow. Madam, let's rest. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises.